Let's check in with the leader of the free world, President Joe Biden, who has had a rough week with his crack addict, whore enthusiast son Hunter facing multiple indictments, but not for all the offences he should be charged with. The Biden administration's ongoing border crisis has intensified, with new monthly records being set, millions crossing into the US illegally every single year. This week, another record smash with over 12,000 migrant encounters at the southern border on Tuesday. Yes, that's 12,000 in a single day. And that's just the ones that were encountered crossing illegally. But the president wasn't talking about the illegal immigration crisis yesterday or his degenerate son. He was in Nevada pledging billions for a high-speed train line, or as the president put it, how much?
Over $1,300 billion.
What was that, Joe? What was that?
Over $1,300 billion.
What's most worrying is that he was reading that from an autocue, and we still got over $300 million. Yes, but pledging $3 billion for trains presented Biden with a perfect opportunity to again repeat one of his favourite verifiable lies. This one about an Amtrak conductor he knows congratulating him for travelling more than 1 million miles.
How many miles you use an aircraft for the United States Air Force as vice president? I just read in the paper, Joe, you traveled 1,200,000 miles on Air Force. He said, big, I won't quote him exactly. He said, big deal, Joey. He said, we just had a retirement dinner in Newark, New Jersey. He said, just had a retirement dinner. You know how many miles you've ridden? I said, no, Angie. He said, 1,327 miles. I don't hear any more about the Air Force.
Why does he keep doing this? It's one thing to lie about making money from your son's dodgy business dealings that essentially amounted to a pay-for-access scheme. But why does the president lie about things that have been debunked, even by the friendliest pro-Democrat media, and about issues of little consequence? Is he such a pathological liar that he can't help himself? If Joe's lips are moving, it's almost guaranteed that lies are spilling out. Because even CNN, the Democrats' unofficial propaganda arm, has called out the president over this oft-repeated lie. This fact check is from mid-2021. For the record, the dude he refers to retired from Amtrak in 1993. None of that story ever happened. But it wasn't just tall tales about Amtrak conductors in his latest speech. The president also opined about law and order. Oh, this is...
All these mass murders, not this weekend, but have been because people have picked up kids and grabbed stuff off of counters, off of the... Anyway, I don't want to get angry.
Oh dear. And he also told us he likes to go skeet shooting.
Look, I own a couple shotguns. I haven't shot them in a while because I usually just make target practice, skeet shooting.
So you haven't shot your guns for years. So what are you skeet shooting with, Joe? There are so many questions here. It's very perplexing. But like Australia, the biggest issue facing everyday Americans is the cost of living. And oh boy, the president had some good news to deliver on that front.
All told, we've created 14 million jobs since he took office, more than any president's created in all 4 years of a term. Wages are up more than inflation.
Oh, he stuck to the autocue there wisely, but the autocue was also full of lies. Sure, there's been millions of jobs added, but most of those jobs aren't new. They're simply workers returning to the jobs they were forced to leave due to the pandemic response. Taking credit for that is a bit rich. And as for his claim there that wage growth is higher than inflation, pure malarkey. The Consumer Price Index shows that prices have soared by more than 17% since President Joe Biden took office. Or as Joe would put it,
over $1,300 billion.
Now for my final reality check of 2023. I want to deliver this message to young women everywhere in the hopes that they open their eyes and realise just how little the modern feminist movement cares about them. We've seen it time and time again from modern feminists siding with trans activists over females fighting to protect sex-based rights and spaces, to their total abandonment of women living under Islam. It's sadly undeniable that instead of focusing on what is in the best interests of women, modern feminism has become a political movement that merely uses women to push a hard left agenda. Issues of great importance are ignored if politically inconvenient, while trivial issues are inflated and inflamed. We saw that in Australia when feminists even criticised ex-PM Tony Abbott's paid parental leave proposal. I mean, that was undoubtedly good for women, especially professional women wanting to start families. But then we saw those same feminists hyperventilating with rage over Tony Abbott's supposed misogyny because he looked at his watch and there was that time that he winked during a radio interview. But I've got to say, even I, who has long called out the hypocrisy and intellectual dishonesty of these pretenders, even I've been shocked by the callousness with which so many feminists and their beta male allies are treating the events of October 7, namely the mass rape, torture and slaughter of Israeli women. And we'll have more on that in the next hour with some examples of high-profile feminists ignoring the plight of these brutalised women. The same feminists who see rape culture everywhere ignore it where it actually exists, just like they ignored the rape culture behind the Rotherham child sex abuse scandal. They ignore mass suffering because in their warped worldview, the perpetrators are the oppressed and victims are the oppressors. That's their neo-Marxist ideology, and sadly it trumps any concern they have for women.